Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about love and relationships poetry, and I'm going to be providing you with my guide and summary and analysis to Daljit Nagra's poem Singh Song. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you get ready for your love and relationships poetry exam. Okay, my guide to Singh Song. Okay, so Daljit Nagra's poem Singh Song is a dramatic monologue from the perspective of a newly married shopkeeper. The young man runs one of his father's shops, admittedly quite poorly, and has to balance his responsibility to his parents and their traditional values with his responsibility to his wife, whom he is devoted to. The poem explores both family relationships as well as romantic love. In the poem, it seems the speaker's family's traditional values are in conflict with his wife's liberalism in a light-hearted poem that explores British Indian identity from a young Sikh perspective. So here is the poem. I'm not going to read this for you simply because it's in phonetics and I don't want to insult the poet, but you can listen to Daljit Nagra read this aloud. Simple search on Google or through YouTube will take you to a reading of the poem. So you feel free to pause here and read the poem for yourself, or if not, you can feel free to listen to the poem be spoken by the writer. So now let's move on to think about what we need to do in the exam. So in the exam, your first paragraph tells us how your two poems relate to the theme named in the question. So tell us what your two poems are about, but be concise. Here's an example of that with Sing Song in mind. Sing Song is a dramatic monologue from the perspective of a young shopkeeper running one of his father's shops and failing to be successful because of his tireless efforts to keep both his new wife and his parents happy. The poem explores how relationships can potentially cause conflicts in families when values and identities are not aligned. The poem has a playful and light-hearted tone whilst exploring strong feelings. So there we've got a few sentences in the opening paragraph about Sing Song. If I'm in the exam, I'm going to write about poem A and poem B. So there's an example of me doing that for Sing Song. After doing that, I move on to writing about structure. So our second paragraph tells us about the structure in each of the poems. Can you make a comment on the rhyme scheme or metre of each poem? Here's an example of that with Sing Song in mind. So the rhyme and half rhyme is melodious, but could also reflect the idea of the childlike status the speaker has in his family. The use of rhyme with an irregular metre could reflect the conflicting relationships the speaker has whilst alluding to his immaturity. The use of phonetics makes the poem seem personal, exploring the idea that relationships are also rooted in our identities. And at the end of the poem, the structural shift breaks tension and places emphasis on the relationship the speaker has with his wife. So there we go. There's real in-depth analysis of the structure of the poem. So I've identified the structural choices made by the poem and then linked them to the intended effects and the ideas that are being communicated by the poem. And that takes us to thinking about language. You are going to need to write about 3 or 4 quotes from each of your chosen poems. So after we've done our introduction and we've analysed structure, it's time to show that we understand how those ideas are presented through the language of the writers. So here we've got 4 key quotes that we're going to use. We've got tiny eyes of a gun. This metaphor could reflect how his wife is independent and doesn't avoid confrontation. She might be the more assertive in the relationship. Also alludes to the idea of that conflict between his parents. We've got she effing at my mum in all the colours of Punjabi. This metaphor could reflect how his wife does not respect his cultural heritage. Punjabi dress is colourful and vibrant, something she rejects, and she doesn't respect his parents perhaps. Effing and Punjabi are juxtaposed here. We've got I return from the tickle of my bride. The speaker lives in conflict between his responsibilities to his father and his store and his new bride that he's newly married. The language here infantilises him. Perhaps he's still treated like a child by his parents. And we've got the very end. We've got his priceless baby, something that's repeated in the final part of the poem. The use of the dash suggests their embrace continues at the end. The speaker places his bride above all other things, possibly including the relationship he has with his parents. So to take it further, who's the speaker and what's their frame of mind in the poem? What key uses of language in the poem are there and what do they communicate? What structure does the poem have and what effect does this have? And what ideas about love does the poem communicate? Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask something you'd like to see me cover in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and keep revising.